Welcome to this episode of The Monthly Blend, a monthly video podcast brought to you by Next, powered by Shulman Rogers and CONNECTpreneur. I'm Tian Wong. I'm the founder and host of the CONNECTpreneur community. We're a global community of over 30,000 investors, founders, and business leaders, along with my co-host, Anthony Millen, who is the founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers. We're pleased to bring you this monthly podcast, which covers trends, information, and fascinating interviews with game changers and newsmakers here in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Northern Virginia Metroplex. And Anthony and I started this podcast over 3 years ago as a way to increase awareness of cool, innovative happenings in our region, to break down silos, and also to serve as a mechanism to do our part in helping to bring the region together and help foster innovation and entrepreneurship here. Today, we're diving into the future of Northern Virginia's economic development and innovation strategy and capital formation with three very prominent, influential guests who are major players in the Northern Virginia ecosystem, as well as the greater Washington ecosystem. We have Victor Hoskins, who is the president and CEO of the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. We are also joined by Ryan Toohill, Director of Economic Development of Arlington County, Virginia, and Tom Weithman, who's the Chief Investment Officer of the Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation. Gentlemen, welcome. I'd like to start with Victor to do some self-introducing. Victor.
First of all, Ian, thank you and Anthony for having me on today. Really appreciate it. We are in a dynamic environment, as you mentioned. I've been very fortunate. I've been working in this industry for 20 plus years. I've been president and CEO of Fairfax County Economic Development Authority for the last 6. And we've concentrated on a diversification strategy that actually was stimulated really way back because of COVID. We realized that we needed to do some different things because related to the office market. In any case, in the last 5.5 years, we've clocked about 700 deals, about 55,000 new and retained jobs, roughly 3.5 million square feet of data centers, and another roughly 7 million square feet of office. So we've been very busy. We've done small deals as well as large deals. I'm really excited about working in this region, even though we have challenges right now.
Thank you for joining us, Victor. Next, I'd love for Ryan Toohill to introduce himself. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me for the first time. It's great to be with Victor and Tom today. I'm here in Arlington, Virginia, Director of Economic Development. AED, as we like to call it, is a full-service economic development organization. We do everything from large corporate attractions to small business to tourism to real estate and even arts and culture. So we dabble in a lot of things here, but we're really excited most recently about what we're doing in the tech ecosystem space. And I'm looking forward to telling all of you more about the innovative programs we're doing and also how we're trying to branch out and work across the region, because I think that's going to be critical to our future in Northern Virginia and in the greater DMV, is building partnerships with innovators and economic development partners and academic organizations so that we can continue to foster new company formations and their growth for the long-term benefit of our region. So great to be here and look forward to the conversation.
Well, thank you for joining us, Ryan. And last but not least, we have Tom Weithman, who's been on the podcast quite a few times. Tom, welcome back.
Well, good morning, Shannon. It's not everyone will have me back. So I'm delighted to be here this morning and to be with Ryan and Victor and Anthony. Thank you so much. Look forward to a great conversation. We are really excited about the tech ecosystem and are approaching it from a statewide lens, so kind of a unique position from which to view things, not only in Northern Virginia, but really around the Commonwealth, border to border. Really excited about some things that have happened. I've been with the organization for 20 years in one form or another. What was first CIT, now the Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation, and had the opportunity to run the investment organization. First CIT Gap Funds, recently renamed Virginia Venture Partners, doing direct investment in over 300 companies over a 20-year period of time, and able to add a few new tools to the toolkit over the last couple of years, which I'm really looking forward to talking about today. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Tom. And now I'd love to turn things over to my co-host, Anthony Millen. Anthony is a serial entrepreneur. He's a venture capitalist, and he's also one of the nation's leading startup attorneys. Anthony is the founder and chair of Next, powered by Shulman Rogers. And Next is disrupting the way legal services are being delivered to the startup community. They have a unique fixed price structure and packages, which allows for expert legal advice at a manageable and predictable cost for early stage founders. And in the last 3 years, Next has been recognized by winning several awards, including Legal Week's Startup Emerging Law Firm of the Year, Legal Week's Best Law Firm for Enabling Startup Success, and also being a finalist for the American Lawyer's Most Innovative Law Firm Award. Anthony, congratulations and take it away.
Great. Well, thank you, Ryan and Tom and Victor, for joining us today. We're going to be digging into really entrepreneurship and innovation across Virginia. And so the place that I'd like to start today is, how would you describe the current state of entrepreneurship and innovation in the Commonwealth? What are the major trends that you're seeing in 2025?
Happy to jump in. I think it's never been stronger or more vibrant. And you just look back on 2024, and Virginia was ranked. Just a couple of items here: the top 10 states in the U.S. for venture capital by NVCA. That's the highest ranking we've had in many, many years. We were ranked number one in America's top states to do business. We had 265 Virginia companies in the Inc. 5000. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to be excited about. From my perspective, deal flow has never been better through the lens of our venture capital investment program, with great things happening in key sectors like life sciences, cybersecurity, dual use technologies. I think it's a great time to be an innovator and a great time to be here in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, and what Tom is, really describing is something that the state has done, I think, uniquely, which has provided an investment fund, actually a portfolio of investment vehicles, actually through his organization, that we all take advantage of in local and regional economic development. I know here in Northern Virginia, we've been very fortunate. About 117 of those 200 plus of the 5,000 are actually located right up here. So we have seen the innovation. What we found very, I think very encouraging is that a lot of our companies start off extraordinarily small, 3, 4, 5 people. I'll just pop to a couple of examples real quick, and just to let you know how rich it can be. Appian started with 4 guys that came out of MicroStrategies. They're now thousands around the country. In 2017, there was a number 1 IPO in the country. It is not uncommon for us to have that happen. Same thing happened with ID.me. Actually, ID.me was funded by Tom's organization early on, and that funding helped them after friends and family ran out. So there's a thing that happens locally, with friends and family and colleagues and similar organizations and angels, but you really sometimes need a bridge between them and that first ABC round of capital. And Tom's organization has been that for all of us, not just here in Fairfax County, but actually in our Arlington County and the other 10 jurisdictions in Northern Virginia. And I know he does that throughout the state.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in and say that I don't think the excitement has been ever higher with what local jurisdictions and economic development groups are doing across Northern Virginia. We have an innovation fund that we formed 2 years ago. Fairfax is doing their Founders Fund. Prince William County has a startup program. The list goes on. And so, I think you're just really seeing the emergence of lots of actors finally coming together and saying, we got to work together and do this together. And you're not just seeing that in Northern Virginia. I was just down in Harrisonburg the other day, and they have a growing, robust startup ecosystem there, fueled by James Madison University, fueled by accelerators that are working there. So we're even seeing in other markets across Virginia, the kind of startup and innovation economy really get humming. And I think that this is a really exciting time. And as Tom said, I think that the investments Virginia is making, I think those play a huge role. And I think that's going to tee us up for future growth.
I just want to mention one more thing, and thank you, Ryan, for mentioning the universities, because we were very fortunate that as part of the Amazon HQ2 deal, this happened. Actually, Ryan was in Alexandria, where a Virginia Tech campus has landed and has been built, which is absolutely beautiful and funded and receiving funds from private sector as corporate partners. He now works at Arlington, and I was running Arlington at that time. And when there's a tech campus there, $500 million tech campus, George Mason University, I sit on the Fuse board. So does Ryan. So we are involved from the public side, but helping the institutional sector really connect with businesses so that they can actually, fuel these innovations. And I think that that's really an extremely important point. And the state has actually done this even in K through 12. They're funding STEM classes and starting early on with entrepreneurship. So the reality is that it's more from early planting of the seeds in these kids in terms of inspiration all the way through as they develop ideas to turn into actually maybe businesses in high school and college, and then moving into the private sector with that entrepreneurial attitude and really finding resources like at Tom's organization, like Ryan's, like out even in Loudoun County, Prince William County, but that help them fuel and grow. And by the way, as Ryan said, that this is also downstate. You see this in Hampton Roads. You see this in Newport News. You see this in Richmond. It's really a vibrant environment.
As you're talking to founders who are looking at where to set up their companies, you're talking today about, the tremendous success that companies in Virginia experience from starting small and growing. And you talked about some of the state-oriented funding that's available. What are some of the other competitive advantages as you're speaking to founders about where they're setting up their companies that really help them de-risk and grow their businesses successfully, just given the tremendous track record of companies in Virginia? What would be some of the other advantages that you see that are unique to Virginia?
I'll let the other guys talk, but I do want to mention this one thing because this I find quite unique, especially when I'm doing international work. Low entry point, low cost entry point. How can you get in our environment at a low cost? That is something that it's everywhere. We have refraction here in Fairfax County. They have 4 or 5 places that you can land in Arlington County. I know this is downstate in Richmond. So these places where companies can come in and land at a low cost and get help from attorneys, get help from actually people like Tien Wong, and get integrated into where there is money. This coming in at a low cost is extraordinarily important to them. And what we've done is we've created, we have this one program, $150, a person can set up a virtual office in our county. And that means they can get licensed here. They can start doing business here. We can start giving them technical assistance here. You can't get lower than that. By the way, if they can't write a check $150, they shouldn't be in business. I think the low entry point, the low cost of getting into the market, I think is extraordinarily important.
And I couldn't agree more with Victor. I mean, I heard from my team anecdotally that we're starting to see founders and other people moving out of those tier 1 cities like San Francisco, New York, Boston, because they're coming here and the seeds for growth are here. We have a low cost entry. We've got great programming and partners across the public, private, nonprofit, academic sectors, all who are open to people coming in and getting to work, whether that's you're forming a company or you want to be part of our greater, tech workforce. I just think that it all kind of comes together here. And I think people are starting to pick up notice on that because we're starting to see that reflected, as Tom and Victor both mentioned, in the rankings and the reputation of this region. It has grown exponentially over the past few years, and people are taking notice of that.
The only couple of things I would add to that, we've got a great workforce, highly educated workforce, a strong university system that is increasingly, I think, entrepreneurial and cooperative with the business community and its orientation. Virginia is increasingly recognized as a great place to start a forward business. It's all overall quality of life and cost of living. And I might not have said this 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but proximity to the federal government has some unique attributes and advantages in terms of accessibility of funding, R&D programs, dual use become, we see that reflected in a much greater way in our pipeline of prospective investments that convey not only to Northern Virginia, but really throughout the Commonwealth, some of the things that and the benefits of proximity to the federal government, which again get other investor attention and have many more people from outside coming into Virginia to seek out investment opportunities. That's something that we want to help further catalyze as we go forward.
I think each of your organizations as well play such a critical role in the economic growth and future in Virginia. and you have a number of different programs and initiatives. But if you're going to each highlight just one or two particular programs or initiatives either underway or that are coming down the pipeline in terms of impacting innovation and entrepreneurship, we would love to just hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just start by talking a little bit about our Arlington Innovation Fund. And we set this up 2 years ago. It's been funded now going into the third fiscal year by our county board. And this is really aims to help two functions. One, grow the startup ecosystem by providing funding for partnerships with a variety of groups. We've done 23 different partnerships this year with all types of groups ranging from VC to DC partnership. We worked with Tom's group on bringing the DC Tech and Startup Week to Virginia last fall. And we've done a host of other things. And that is to make our kind of startup community more inclusive, to get people interested and excited, and then ultimately help them build connections so they can begin to understand how they can form a company or grow their company. And on the other side of the coin is our Catalyst Grant Program, which we funded now 9 companies with seed grants to help them kind of fill the gap between their first round of funding and then their kind of first Series A. And so that program has been wildly successful with several companies now taking off. I think cumulatively that group has raised over $21 million in venture capital. We're seeing the job creation now start to occur. So we've really gone all in on the tech ecosystem, and we're looking every year to kind of figure out what else we need to do here in this space. And we've been fortunate to have the county's support in doing that.
I'll just mention a couple of things. One, we created a talent hub right at COVID back in April 2020. Ryan's organization is part of it. As a matter of fact, we created a Northern Virginia Economic Development Alliance about 6 months before that. And that alliance, one of the first things that we did was put together this talent hub because our company needed talent. Now what we can do is we can deliver to them. Now we started out with about 15 university relationships. Now we have 100. We started out working with 35 companies. Now we work with 17,500. We started out, having these career areas with maybe 250. Now we get 500 to 1,000 people in our career fair. We get over 50 companies there. They have over 10,000 open slots. And by the way, these companies, some of them have 2 employees and some will have 10,000 employees, and they all get the same service, and it's all free. And I think that the fact that it's free to any company in Northern Virginia, period, no matter what the 10 jurisdictions you're in, you can use this program. It is free to you. And we bring the talent to you for free, and we market to that talent all over the country. And I think that's made a big difference because talent is so critical. 73% of the people in Arlington County have BAs or better. 63% in our county. In the region as a whole, 64%. We beat the numbers across the country hands down. And then we have all this technical talent coming out of our university. So I think that is a real competitive edge. The second thing that I would mention is that we really, and I mentioned this, we start early. We start in K through 12 now. We reach over 1,000 kids a year, and actually this year, 2,000 kids, where we bring in companies. Like we'll bring in Microsoft, we'll bring in Google, we'll bring in Meta. They'll come in with, 4 or 5, sometimes 6 people, and they basically talk about their jobs in the organization to inspire these kids. Because we think that you got to plant these seeds early or you're going to lose these kids. I mean, you got to get them interested in your industries, in your place. And I know that sounds like, wow, that's kind of early when you're talking about starting companies. No, it's not. Because some of these kids, like there's a 15-year-old in high school in Fairfax County who is working on a cancer prevention cream with the NIH. I mean, these kids start early and you have to get them early. And by the way, these are the kind of kids that these young companies want to hire because they don't have all the institutional things that happen to you as you grow older and you find out that you have to pay electrical bills and rent. So the reality is that we try to start early. We really focus on talent. We think it's extraordinarily important no matter where you are in the pipeline. And I think that the last thing that I would say is that we make sure that we work very closely with the private sector. CONNECTpreneur is an important part of our work. Us working with the chambers is an important part of work. Ryan sits on all his chambers. I sit on all our chambers. I sit in the state chamber. I'm working on the blueprint for the governor that's coming in the fall. So we have these roles that go beyond our borders, but that are extraordinarily important to the overall environment. And I think that these small companies and these startups are benefiting from that.
VIPC does a number of different things, and you know us through Virginia Venture Partners for funding companies, but we also have grant funding available to entrepreneurial support organizations around the Commonwealth. We fund test beds for testing certain technologies that are strategic to the federal government and to the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we bring people together with events. I'm going to go back and focus on the investment piece, however, and maybe a couple of new things that we've been able to do. One causal factor here has been the acquisition of funding from the Treasury Department SSBCI program, State Small Business Credit Initiative. This is money that's been available to all states, tribal lands, and territories for the purposes of bolstering credit support and venture programs around the states. With this capital, we have been able to launch a new program called Virginia Invests, where we are taking a limited partner role in venture funds. We funded 6 such funds to date. We are continuing to look at others on an ongoing basis so that we are not simply a direct allocator of funds, but we are funding other managers who share our enthusiasm, indeed our passion for growing technology and entrepreneurship and innovation here in the Commonwealth. As we have gotten new monies into this federal government program and through returns that we've gotten over the years, we've also been able to play a little bit later in terms of company development, write somewhat bigger checks than we have been in the past, and that's a luxury that you know we welcome. And at the same time, we don't want to lose sight of that core mission of funding very early stage companies, as Victor mentioned with Appian, started out with 4 people in a garage, and we want to make sure that our capital is scalable to deploy in those very early situations. So we've also drawn a little bit more closely the grant program that has been available through VIPC to our investment program, such that my team is now manning that early stage grant program. So we have that seamless transition, that scalability of funding from the earliest stage of company formation through pre-seed and seed stage and beyond. So we're really excited about these changes as a consequence of new money and stakeholder feedback who've suggested that we incorporate some of these changes in process and alignment.
Those are all such impactful programs and initiatives, and you see it, as you started off saying, in the results and just how companies that launch and grow in Virginia are being so successful. And with that, Tien, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Anthony. And I'd love to congratulate Victor, Tom, and Ryan for these initiatives on the capital raising and the fact that you guys are, Tom, having a fund of funds. And I've been on Tom's Gap Fund Investment Advisory Board for Tom. This is my 18th year doing it. So
You're one of the originals.
I've marveled at never get out. I'm in and I love it. I love every minute of it. And I just marvel at the way you guys have been able to sort of pivot throughout. And Victor, and Ryan, thank you guys for your comments about talent retention, as well as the partnerships you guys are fostering with educational institutions to help these innovation districts and innovation hubs kind of thrive. I have a couple of questions. And the first one I'd like to address to all 3 of you, which is Virginia's role in emerging technologies. And there's a lot of emerging technologies that are in the newspapers and people talking about it. But, we have strengths in AI, cyber, bio, dual use, and others, NatSec. Where do you individually, each of you, where do you see the most growth potential for Virginia to lead nationally or globally in these emerging sectors? And I also want to mention space and quantum, because those are, so Virginia's got a panoply of potential hard tech and deep tech growth opportunities. What are you guys seeing? Maybe, Tom, we can start with you.
You mentioned aerospace, and adjacent to that is autonomy, airborne autonomy. But we're seeing autonomy manifest itself in other forms, underwater autonomy and technologies around communication that enable that. For me, it's this integration, and in part it is a reliance on AI, but it is an integration on continually proliferating, omnipresent data that will inform the actions of hardware, where I think there's tremendous opportunity, whether it is airborne or terrestrial. So I think AI manifests in its various forms, whether it is in cybersecurity, whether it is in in forming hardware as to actions ranging from space awareness to autonomous cars toward swarming underwater drones, offer immense opportunities. Again, capitalizing on some of the native strengths, the proximity to the federal government, the proximity to various other physical assets in the Commonwealth.
Ryan, how about you? What are your thoughts on this?
We're seeing a tremendous growth in dual use technology, particularly around the defense tech space. I think that's been our most prevalent growth area for the past about year and a half or so here in Arlington, just given our proximity, obviously, to the Pentagon, to groups like DARPA. So we're seeing that really begin to take off. And I think that's part of the reason why we've also wanted to set up, and you can talk more about this later, our innovation district and national landing to try to capture some of that, given some of the legacy defense and government contractors that are there, the interest in startups coming there. But that's been, beyond that, we've seen kind of cyber AI, and I won't steal Victor's thunder and I'll let him talk about space because I know that's his favorite.
Yeah, before we get to Victor, I have a follow-on question. So are you seeing the early germination yet of the impact of DOGE and the cuts to GovCons leading to entrepreneurs or people who are leaving these GovCons to start some of these dual-use ventures that you're talking about yet, or no?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we're seeing the interest. Whether that's going to turn into company formation, I think is still a little early and yet to be seen. But I mean, folks are either that are coming out of the government either looking for a job immediately, right? They're trying to get back to work, or they are taking the time to avail themselves of all this network and all these partnerships here to figure out if they want to go into business. And so we certainly are seeing that interest. And I think, frankly, that could be a real boon for Northern Virginia and Virginia, because highly talented, highly skilled individuals, lots of real world experience, using systems, working within the government. And so we could potentially start seeing that later this year. But right now, I think we're just still seeing the interest levels. We haven't quite seen it develop into company formation yet.
Victor, you want to talk a little bit about space and maybe quantum? Because I've seen you floating around the various quantum events.
First, I'd just like to give context to these sectors, because I think that's important. And then I'll talk about space and quantum, because those are two of my favorite, and we've benefited from both. Artificial intelligence, they're talking about by 2030, we're talking about a $15 trillion market, guys. So it is happening in all of our companies that are involved in, if they're involved in procurement processing or data processing, they're trying to use artificial intelligence. Insurance, hospitality, everyone in the industries is doing $15 trillion. Space and space commercialization, $1.8 trillion by 2035. Next generation digital infrastructure, data centers, hyperscales, $418 billion by 2030. Life sciences and innovation, $214 billion by 2032. In quantum technology, $106 billion by 2040. So when you look at these as market opportunities, you got to be really bad to miss making money in these markets. So, I mean, unless you just don't have the talent to do it or technology, you got to be really, really bad. And our companies are really good. We focus on two in particular. However, 4 years ago, we began a focus on quantum. And this year we're going to have our 4th Quantum World Congress. We have over 1,000 people come from around the world to Fairfax County. They're from 32 countries. They are basically broken into 3 parts: use case companies, investors, capitalists, venture capitalists, angel investors, and academicians and deep research Nobel laureates. We have about 100 content speakers, and it has turned out to be an incredible 3-day, I would say, lead generation fest for us, for companies small and large. In Arlington County, Loudoun County, all the counties participate in this, and it's been a real powerful place for us to meet these companies, but also us to develop deeper connections with some companies in particular: IBM, Google, Meta. All of them, we've developed deeper relationships because we have this conference, and they sponsor the conference, so it's beneficial to them and us. Okay, space. We started with space commercialization about 4 years ago. We started gaining traction 36 months ago. In 36 months, we had 70 companies grow or move here from as far away as El Segundo, California, from the West Coast, to here, investing $100 million, that's the aerospace company. Companies like Trident building these micro satellites, Hawkeye 360, a startup expanding, building these micro satellites, and they're setting up in spaces like old, two-story, office parks, which just blows my mind. They go in, they take this mezzanine space, and they set up, create a clean room and a testing room. I mean, it is amazing what they're doing. And space and quantum are a real advantage for us because we have neighbors across the river. That if the first publicly traded quantum company started in Prince George's County at University of Maryland College Park. People know that IonQ. And that is a real advantage for us because they have deep research there and they also had started that company. So we do have an incredible overall environment, not just in Virginia, but throughout the state of Virginia, Maryland, and even DC.
I love it. This is fantastic. A couple more quick questions. One is for each of you, regarding one big move for this year. We're already done with the first quarter. We got 3 quarters left. If you had to pick one big goal for your organization this year that would have the most impact on the Virginia startup and tech ecosystem, what would it be?
It's getting our innovation district and national landing established. We are very close. We've had about a year worth of research and development on this with a variety of public, private, nonprofit, and academic partners. And we should be announcing something hopefully on the second half of 2025. And this is really aiming to be an engine for technology and innovation within the national landing area, helping to build those connections between all the players in the startup community, large and small, and really fostering that environment for growth. And that's going to take a couple of years for us to ramp up for sure. But we're excited that we're seeing a lot of traction from our company partners in Arlington and other interest in folks across the Washington region in creating this unique space. And I think we're going to get it done this year. I'm very excited about that.
How about you, Victor? If you had one big goal?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we do in economic development all the time is we connect companies to create partnership, the companies to universities to create partnerships. What we've done this year is we actually have expanded that to our international offices. We have offices in Seoul, Korea, in Bangalore, in Mumbai, in Berlin, Germany, in the UK, and in the foreign country of California. And what we do is we take these international resources, international resources, and we connect them to resources here and opportunities here. With the onshoring, with the friendshoring, with the tariffs, that we've seen capital flows already. Right now, as I'm speaking to you right now, we've seen capital flows like we've not seen before and opportunities like we've not seen before, but they need connections and relationships here on the ground that know this market and know how to expand in this market. So I view that as one of the extraordinarily important, ways that we can help business, not only, take advantage of market opportunities, but also to grow their company with one another on using international capital.
Love it. That's awesome. How about you, Tom?
Say more capital into the Commonwealth of Virginia. That's in our portfolio companies. That is as a consequence of our making additional commitments from a fund of funds perspective and overall by helping to raise the profile of all the great things going on in Virginia such that it becomes a yet more and more desirable place and destination for capital.
Awesome. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you are running one of the most prolific investors in terms of number of deals done in the entire country. So congratulations and keep doing great things for the state and for the region. Final question. How can our viewers engage with you guys? This would be for entrepreneurs, investors, and innovators who are watching. How can they engage with you? Are there any upcoming events, programs, any other types of funding opportunities or anything that they should be checking out?
For us, I think the single best source of information is our bi-weekly virtual coffee series, 9:00 every other Friday morning, coffee with Virginia Venture Partners. We started this during COVID as just a way of becoming relevant or maintaining relevance, I should say, with founders in our pipeline. But we've really expanded this to try to cultivate an entrepreneurial community throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia and beyond. So that's a good place to learn more about us, to connect with other founders, to connect with other funding sources.
Thank you, Tom. How about you, Ryan?
Arlington Economic development.com. You'll find all of our events across all of our various divisions. We have a DC Tech meetup in National Landing on May 8th, and you can find more information on our website. But we're doing events probably every week at this point, so you can't miss an opportunity to engage across the startup community. So best way to find us is online.
Thank you, Ryan. And Victor, how about you guys?
Same for us, Fairfax County Economic Development. On that website, you will find our events that are focused on business. You will find our events that are focused on talent. You'll find all the resources that are available, including Tom's resources. And also something that I have not mentioned, and I could have missed that I did not, the role that Virginia Economic Development Partnership plays in this process. We're not the number one state by NBC to do best state to do business in. And by the way, we're in the top 10 now from CEO magazine. So, we're rising and business facilities, number one. That's not an accident. That's the intent of Virginia Economic Development Partnership, actually working with us closely. So I think you can come to our website and you can find these resources and actually even links to Ryan's resources in Arlington County. So that's the best way to be to us.
I should also throw out our website, www.virginiaipc.org, which will offer the range of resources and activities available through the IPC in addition to simply our investment activity.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, Ryan, and Victor. You guys are doing really phenomenal work. Thank you for elevating our region to the top, basically, for entrepreneurship and innovation. And also thank you for everything you guys are doing. We really appreciate it. I know it's very, very hard work, especially in these difficult times, but very inspiring talk today. I'd like to turn things back to Anthony, who has some closing remarks. Anthony?
Just want to thank Tom and Victor and Ryan for joining us today and sharing with us some of the new initiatives and programs and all of the benefits that companies can experience in forming and building and launching in Virginia. And thank you, like Tien said, for all that you do for the region overall.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It was great. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.